There you go. Now my mic's on. So I'm Jordan. I'm one of the health behaviorists, and this is our virtual group. Today we're going to be talking about personal responsibility, but before we get started, I have somebody extra in the room with me. This is Megan. Hi. She's going to be doing some of the group, and she's a new face around here. She is one of our interns, so she'll be here until May. So she just wanted to let you guys know that she's sitting in here observing group today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like some more people are rolling in. I'll go ahead and switch over so you can see the PowerPoint that we'll be going through today. For those of you that may or may not have been on in the group when I've led before, I really like to include you guys as much as possible. I know that's not always easy if you're on your phone using the chat box, but please, anytime you have questions or if you want to comment on something I've said or if I've asked a question, then definitely type it in the chat box. If you guys want to do a test run and try to type something in, just say hey or welcome or whatever it is you want to so you can get used to it. And another thing that we'll do is sometimes at the end, I'll go through and show you guys some of the handouts that you'll have in the files, but also some of it I may be leaving this handout in the nutrition shop in case anybody wants to pick up a hard copy of it, because I really love today's handout especially. So we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody can see and hear me okay? Giving y'all a chance to use the chat box. Perfect. Okay, so today is personal responsibility. So more often than not, do you guys feel for you that part of what brought you to this program is lack of knowledge of knowing how to lose and manage your weight loss? Or do you feel like you have the knowledge that you need to lose weight? Which one? Which one do you feel like you struggle with most? Having the knowledge and not doing it, or not having the knowledge? Not doing it. Yeah. So having it and not actually following through with it. That's exactly why we have this entire topic, personal responsibility, because the majority of people that we see in our program, and just the majority of people, I think, can't hurt to get more knowledge, but mostly I need accountability. Yeah. So maybe we don't know all the ins and outs, but as a general rule, we understand what it takes to lose and maintain weight loss. Sure. So that's exactly why we have this topic, because almost everybody that comes to our program, or anybody really, they'll say, I know what to do, I don't know why I don't do it. I just don't do it. And so this is where we talk about the topic of personal responsibility. Go ahead if you can, you all, and grab a piece of paper or a pen. Or if you're on a computer, pull up a Word document or something like that. I may ask you to jot some things down as we're going along that you may or may not have to share, regardless of what you're comfortable with. Okay, so personal responsibility is closing the gap between knowing what to do and actually being able to do it. So we'll get started with the nuts and bolts of it. So taking control and empowering yourself. So I know all this, but why am I not losing weight? So basically, research shows that most people try to attempt weight loss 5 times before they are successful. Because losing weight's more about just knowing the nutrients, the numbers, the exercise, but it's actually being able to take responsibility for your thoughts and your behaviors. And when I say take responsibility, I sometimes think that's a pretty value-laden word, so we can talk about that throughout today's lesson. But taking responsibility for your thoughts and behaviors. What is it that is stopping you from the follow-through? Okay? And that's where we have to be real with ourselves. We have to be real with knowing why we are not following through, what are the thoughts, and actually being real with what specific behaviors are impacting our ability. So recognizing that our beliefs and thoughts affect our behavior. And y'all, this part might not be fun. being able to be real with ourselves can be scary. It cannot be fun, and it can maybe bring up some old wounds we may have. But at the end of the day, we as individuals are the only ones who really control us. So instead of, if you're somebody that thinks, oh, this is really, really scary, like how am I going to be able to pay attention and get real with myself, I want you to kind of shift that thought to, this is actually pretty empowering, because this is the first step for me being able to get where I want to go. This is like the starting line, okay? Have any of y'all learned something about yourselves that through this process that really helped you kind of break free or change some behaviors that maybe you wouldn't have realized before? And you don't have to share what it is unless you want to. Giving y'all some time to type if you want to. I sometimes feel that, keep typing if you are, I sometimes feel that people will come in, maybe not yet, okay. People will come in at some points in the program. It's normally not right away. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a couple weeks in. Sometimes it's even more than that. But I think it's important to know that at some point we're going to be able to have these little bitty light bulb moments where it's like, that's why that's happening. Or being able to realize, you know what, I thought I was doing this a lot or this not a lot, but when I really start paying attention to my behaviors, I realize that I may be doing this unhealthy thing more often than I thought I was. And it may be the opposite. Maybe you come in and you have this light bulb moment where you're like, you know, I really was beating myself up a lot about some things, but I actually was doing better off than I thought. So basically just being real with yourself and being ready to take that step, okay, even though it's scary. So thinking about personal responsibility, this is a huge piece right here. I love this picture. It's talking about our locus of control. So there's two options, right? We either have an internal locus of control or we have an external locus of control. Let's start with the external locus of control, okay? So that's going to be the one on the right with the red square around it. This is that we have the viewpoint that things happen to us, okay? And sometimes when I explain this slide, I feel like it can kind of dig into some people and make people feel uncomfortable. So if that's you and you might have your ears shutting down a little bit, keep them open a little bit longer, okay? So this is when we have the viewpoint that life happens to us. Things happen to us. There's nothing I can do about my future. Why do I even bother? This has never worked before. Why does everything happen to me? Some people call this kind of like this victim mentality. I want you to hear from me that even though some of those things are true, there are some things that are absolutely out of our control that happen to us, okay? But this specific thing that I'm explaining now is more of a generalized attitude, right? This is more of us being able to look at the thing that happened and shift our viewpoint, okay? So let's shift to the internal locus of control. This is that you make things happen. Now, this does not mean that you're absolutely responsible for everything that's happened in your life, right? Because there are some things, like we've said before, that are out of our control. However, you can control how you respond to things. And that's where this is going to really play a big role when we talk about locus of control. I make things happen. Look what I can do. I determine my future. And so being able to sit back and say, are you typically somebody that says, you know, I can't do anything about this because I've never been able to control my diabetes, okay? Or my family history has we've always had high blood pressure, so there's nothing I can do about it. And some of those things may be true. You may have a family history of diabetes or high blood pressure, That is out of your control. Your family history is out of your control. However, what is the role and what are the things that you can do to manage it? It may be to take your medication daily, right? Those are things that are in your control. Are y'all following me with this? I know a lot of people have just hopped on and joined on. But is that making sense to everybody? Perfect. Thank you. So I love this slide, and I think that when we sit down and we look at this slide and we think about some of the reasons we give for not being able to follow through with behaviors, whether it's logging or whatever it may be, getting our water, our exercise, following the food plan, when you hear yourself explaining to yourself or to a provider or to a friend or family member why you're having trouble, I want you to see which side of the locus of control is this falling on. Okay? All right. Keep on moving. There's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. I like this because I feel like it sums up what I was just trying to tell you guys. You may not, let me change that. You cannot control every single thing in this world. That's your favorite author. Oh, good. Type in some of your favorite books from them if you don't mind. I always love giving options to people. Okay, so now I got sidetracked thinking about books. That's one of my favorite pastimes is reading. Okay, so we cannot control everything that happens to us. We absolutely can't. But how we respond to those things is going to be super, super, super important because we can either react to something or respond to something. So be sure that you're being real with yourself, but also take it a step further. Be real with your providers. Be real with what your real life challenges are. Think about, okay, here is what's out of my control, and here is what I want to control to be able to change that as best I can. Ask providers for advice. What can I do to shift this? What can I do to make this in my control? We cannot control the weather, right? We cannot control that the majority of the population has to work, okay? We can't control diseases always, right? We can't control grief or car accidents. There's certain things that just happen that we can't control. So what do? How do we respond to it? Do we have a plan in place for our program? Do we have a backup plan to our backup plan? Those are some examples of how we can turn it into an internal locus of control. Brave New World. Awesome. I'll look into that. Okay, externalizing blame and making excuses. So have y'all ever in any of your life, even outside of this program or weight loss, been talking to somebody, probably at work, and you're in a meeting and you hear, yeah, but I just don't know. I kind of call them yes butters, okay? And those are the people, and we've all done it, right? I'm not saying I have not ever said that, but it's easy to say, yeah, that could work, but, you know, I've got a kid at home and I don't know. Or, yes, but so-and-so did this instead, or they didn't have that into me at work by the timeline, so that's why I was late, or all of this. So it's often easier to recognize and use the yes, but, and if only as like a way to blame because we can see it in other people around us, okay? And it's important to become aware of these thoughts in our heads. So, and I just had something pop into mind, and I hope y'all follow me on this. It's a little bit of a leap. But I heard the quote one time that we individually, right, look at our own intentions, and we judge ourselves on our intentions, but we judge other people on their behavior, right? So think about that. That's kind of deep. So when we think about it, we judge, let's say, our person that at work that was supposed to have us something on time to us by a certain date. We don't judge them by their intention they didn't mean to have it to us late. They meant to have it on time. We judge them on the fact that their behavior was getting it to us late. But for ourselves, we may say, well, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, right? even though maybe you did kind of snap back at somebody at work. So when we think about it, I want us to not just look at ourselves with the intentions. What is the follow through, right? I meant to log all of my food today. Well, sure, you signed up for a program, you're invested in a program, but what is the behaviors after? So start actually looking at what the follow through is and giving yourself lots of kudos for the things that you do follow through with your behaviors, okay? The good and the bad. When we blame others or make excuses for our behavior around food and exercise, we give ourselves an out. But we also minimize the control and power we have to influence our own decisions. Okay? So, how many of you struggle with food being in your home that's off plan? I'm expecting most everybody to type in something. Yes, that's huge. So, if only you didn't bring in blank food to the house, I'd be able to stay on plan. Yep, here's some yeses and me. Yep. So is that true? Sure, that is true. But is that always the only place you're going to be triggered? No. So you could potentially be off plan at work or in the car, even if your person that you live with doesn't have off plan food in the house, right? I'm waiting on y'all to agree with me. So, yeah, some people are typing. So, even if we're not intentionally trying to blame somebody, again, here's the intention and behavior component. When we do blame you live alone, so the off plan is at work or other. Sure, yeah, the situation could be switched and reversed. When we blame each other for our excuses, it really does minimize the control that we have and reinforces that negative thought of I'm never going to be able to do this, right? So what in that example that I just made up about food at home or at work, whichever you guys want to go with, instead of taking the external locus of control, so-and-so always has blank at home or in the office. If only they wouldn't bring in blank, then I'd be okay. Shift that to an internal locus of control viewpoint. What does that look like? I want y'all to type in some answers. Got some people working on it, so we'll wait for them. I can take control myself no matter what is put in front of me. That's wonderful. Yep. I can bring my own food. I can be prepared with my own food, so I'm not as triggered by the food around me or having to make choices. Those are great. I'm in control of what my needs are. Yes, you are. And it can even be, I'm in control of maybe instead of something sitting on the middle of the counter at home, maybe you can ask somebody, I can be assertive enough to ask for them to put it in the cabinet. Yes, I like those examples. Those are definitely internal locus of control. It's easy to do it sitting in here in this group, and sometimes situations outside of this group can be okay and easy to follow through, but sometimes it's really challenging. So we're going to look at some other ways of controlling and taking choices, okay? Problem solving. Being able to challenge yourself to think about solutions to your problem rather than excuses. Y'all just did a lot of that. Bring your own food. Take control no matter what's put in front of me. So I would challenge you guys. Y'all did a great job of shifting. But now look at specific solutions. Okay? How are you going to take control? What is it that you're going to actually have to do or say? Recognize and release. There's going to be some level of grief when we change our lifestyle, change the relationship with food and exercise. Overeating and often not making time for exercise could have been something that brought comfort or joy to most people, right? Um, think about how food has brought you a secondary gain. And what I mean by that is food is going to fuel your body when you eat, but there are often, and I would say more often than not, a secondary reason or positive reinforcement you're getting from food that most people get from food. Is it emotional comfort? Is it avoidance of something? Is it helping manage your anxiety or your sadness, even for a little while? Yep, there's a great example, a reward. Yes. So being able to get real with yourself, remember what we talked about, which is that really scary thing? Get real with yourself to say, what is food doing for me right now? A lot of people, a lot of what I've heard is food is always there. Food comforts me. Sometimes there's good memories with food. Sometimes food's a habit with a reward system, right? That starts in childhood, right? You pee in the potty, you get an M&M or whatever, right? We start it from the very beginning. My son got honor roll last year and got a gift card or a free kids meal or something to a local restaurant. I would have rather him gotten pick a library book out to bring home and keep. There are other ways to reward our children other than through food, and it starts super early. So when I hear about reward, that's definitely a big one. Filling my time. So food helps you fill your time so that you're not bored. Yes, perfect example. Dig even deeper. Okay. Why don't I want to be bored? Why do I not want to sit in quiet time? What's going to happen if I don't have anything to do, right? A lot of times I hear from people with that is their head doesn't stop. They don't want to sit still because of the thoughts that are going through their head. Society lends itself to these poor habits. Yes, it does. It definitely does. So we could easily take all of these things. Okay, I'm going to try to pull this one out of my hat real quick. Filling my time with boredom. If only my partner or my kid were home more often, I wouldn't be as bored and wouldn't have to eat. Is that external or internal? Y'all don't even have to type that because I know you know what it is. It's external. So that's a way where we could potentially take that example and make it external. Same with society. Society lends itself to these poor habits. Well, it's because it's advertised everywhere. And, I was rewarded with food my whole life, and that's an external, right? I'm not saying these things are not true. But shifting them to an internal locus of control, how could that look different? Let's go with the filling my time one. If so-and-so were here more often, I wouldn't be as bored, and then I wouldn't eat. You're going to be aware and real with yourself. And what that looks like is when so-and-so's not here, well, y'all are typing. I'm going to see what y'all have to say. Since so-and-so is not here, I can go take a walk. Yes. When so-and-so is not here, I know that I get bored. What can I do in my bored time so that I don't eat? That's an internal locus of control. I have control of what I do when I'm bored. That's what that looks like. It's not saying you're not allowed to be bored because that's not realistic. Okay, therefore it's imperative to make the lifestyle change, not just temporary change. Aware, real, connected, purposeful, and hope one day more of a society will be focused on health. Yes. So being able to understand there are a lot of things in society that encourage unhealthy behaviors, both with food and without food, right? I was just talking to somebody earlier today that we live in a society that is focused on productivity. It is focused on the more busy you are, the more successful you are. The more work you do, the more, again, the more successful you are. And I think that reinforces the idea of quick eating, not taking enough breaks for snacks and water and self-care. So you're right, all those things are real. But what we do is, how can I make this work within my society? What do I have control over? What can I do or ask my boss for? Maybe you can't. What can I do myself? How can I make this easier? So y'all are doing a really great job. If you're having trouble kind of identifying or shifting from the external to the internal, that's okay. Talk to your behaviorist or the team and say, here's the situation. It is out of my control, but I know it's not going to change. How can I shift this to respond and react differently so that it helps me with my goals? Okay. Let's see here. Tools for building responsibility. I've already mentioned assertiveness already, but when we really think about shifting to that internal locus of control, we have to be firm and direct, use I statements, avoid blame, speak with your words and your body, practice in advance, and this last one is my favorite. I want this painted all over this building. No is a sentence. No, period. And you're probably like, Jordan, what are you talking about? How many times do we say, let's say somebody says, hey, can you bring cookies to the PTA meeting? No, I've been on this diet thing, and, I just don't know if I really have time because I've got to go to the gym, and, well, maybe I could just buy some. If you're okay if they're not baked, I can just buy some and bring them. It's okay to say, no, I'm not able to today. Or no, even, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, but that's rude. Is it? Really think about that. We often don't even want to say no, or we feel like we have to explain ourselves. And if learning to say no is one of the best ways to create boundaries for yourself, to give you time to kind of focus on the things that you need for yourself and create self-care. And it helps you build responsibility for your actions because you're going to have more time. Who struggles with saying no? It says multiple attendees are typing. Yes, but working on it. Perfect. That's great. It is so challenging because we're so worried sometimes about how other people are going to respond or react to us. Used to be harder, but I still do sometimes. I would feel like I had to bring something. Yeah. So this is something, too, that can really impact your ability to follow through, because some of the things that you may be saying yes to are going to be impacting the follow-through. Okay? And we'll talk a little about that. Kind of bridges us into the little activity that you guys can do after group. But let's look at time management first. Time management, you do have the time. I've heard so often, I don't have time for that. I've even challenged some people, and I probably need to redo one myself, we all probably do, to do I don't even really know what it's called anymore, but a time to review your time, a 24-hour time thing. So have a calendar or a piece of paper that literally breaks it down, into 30-minute windows, 15-minute windows. A time motion study. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's lunchtime, right? Okay. So looking down at what you're actually spending your time. How many times are you picking up your phone to check Facebook? How many times are you checking emails from work? How many times are we talking to a coworker? I'm not saying that people aren't busy. We are all busy, okay? But we can do some things and not find time, excuse me. I say we have to take time. We don't find it, we have to take it, all right? To better prioritize your health. Because if there's something we really, truly want to do, more often than not, most people can take time for it. If it's watching a football game, okay, going out with friends, whatever it may be. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it is doable. If you're having trouble finding time for things, It could also be that what your expectations are. It could be that you think, well, I don't have an hour to give to the gym, so I'm not going to go. Well, that can be problematic because you could go for a 15-minute walk, and that's better than not doing anything at all, right? Okay, build a framework for exercise, meal prep, and other self-care behaviors. What is it actually going to look like? Sit down and break it down into a day, a week. I wouldn't go any more than a week. And say, what day am I going to do what? Don't let these things fall off a plate when life becomes full. Have a buddy that you check in with every week. Write them in your planner. You know, if you're going to do something for self-care, write it in your planner. You can tell I'm a pen and paper girl. Or put it in your iPhone calendar, whatever. It's hard for me to get started because I feel like I have to do it perfectly, and I know I can't. Yes, lots of people feel that way. They're like, if I ate off plan for breakfast, I'll just start tomorrow. And I've shared this, I think, last group that I did, but I'm going to share it again, especially after what you just said, okay? How many of you have had a flat tire? Anybody? Yes. Okay. How many of you, somebody said, of course, I love it. Okay. How many of you then, you realize your tire's flat, how many of you then got out a knife and slit the other 3 tires? Did anybody do that? I better not see a yes. Not yet. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Might as well. I needed new tires anyways. Okay, guys. All right, but you didn't, right? Because that's silly. That's silly to think about getting a flat tire and slicing the other 3. Okay? So think about that with your plan. Think about it. I ate off plan for breakfast. There's 1 flat tire. Ate off plan for lunch. There's 2 flat tires. Skip snack. There's 3 flat tires. Eat off plan for dinner. There's 4 flat tires. Okay? So now it's harder and more expensive to get 4 new tires. More time away from work, more time in the shop, than if you ate off plan for breakfast, there's 1 flat tire. You had your snack, an on-plan snack, you had an on-plan lunch, had an on-plan snack, on-plan dinner. You only got to get 1 tire fixed, right? Thank you. I'm so glad you love this example. I love it too. It's amazing. Because if we shift it from there, so I hope whoever it was that said they don't get started because they're afraid they're going to do it perfectly. Think about that. Because here's the thing, we don't do anything perfect. And that's what's beautiful about it. You can be successful and not be 100% perfect. You can. And what I mean by that is it's okay if one day you don't get 64 ounces of water. That doesn't mean I don't want you to try for 64 the next. Yes, that's a good point. Thinking in the present. What can I do right now to get myself back on plan? That might be taking 5 deep breaths for some self-care. That might be turning your computer off for a second and walking around the building, even if it's a 3-minute walk. What can you do right now? Okay. I got off topic, but we'll get back on. Time management. So that is when we delegate and reprioritize what's going on in our life to better match our goals. That really helps us to be able to, it's easier to follow through from the know it to the do it when we've reprioritized to match the follow through it takes to reach our goals. Okay? So the next thing I want you guys to look at, we're probably going to get done a little early today. Use that time for self-care. All right. So it's up there, but it's also this big one. Okay? A lot of times when I hear people say, especially once they've been in the program for a while, like, I know what to do, why am I not doing it? Like, I was doing really well, why am I not doing it now? Okay. Try not to read all of this right now because I'm going to give you my kind of way I narrate this to people. So let's say you start out on 3 blood pressure medicines. Okay? You want to get off of them because you're about to max out, your blood pressure's not well controlled, whatever. So my assumption, and is mostly true, is that this person, we'll call him Sam or something, I don't know. Sam is extremely highly motivated. So most of the things that are important to him and things that he values are going to be the things he's going to value getting off these blood pressure meds. Or at least knock it down to 1 because he's spending tons of money a month. Okay? So eating on plan, making time for the gym is going to come fairly easy to him because he values getting off of these meds. Let's say he bumps down and he's only on 1 now, and his blood pressure is manageable. He's spending less money. Is he as motivated to come off blood pressure medications now that he's come off 2? I'm waiting on y'all. There you go. You would say no. Very likely he's not as motivated. Okay? Because he doesn't value coming off meds because he's already come off of 2. His quality of life has shifted very likely. He's probably lost weight. So, therefore, let's say his gym time now, let's say his kid now plays, that's one of his soccer games, is the day that he normally goes to this one gym class. Before, he could understand and make himself go to the gym and miss that one soccer game a week because he valued coming off of the 3 meds. Well, now he's only on 1 med. What do you think he values? Coming off the 3 meds or spending time with his kid at the soccer game? And this is a very specific example, so generalizing. Yeah, his son. Yeah, the time with his kid. So, what has to shift? He's going to come into me and he's going to say, Jordan, why am I not going to this class anymore? I don't understand it. Like, I used to go all the time. And it's like, I don't even want to go anymore. Okay. Well, here's why. Before, you wanted to come off of your meds. You achieved that. So sometimes when your know it and your do it aren't matching up, it's because you probably need to realign goals. Okay? Maybe you've already reached a big goal, or a goal you thought was important to you isn't as important anymore. And when that happens, more often than not, it's because what goal we have set, or we don't have one, and the behaviors that we need to do, time at the gym, eating on plan, drinking our water, self-care, the things we need to do to get those things done are not what matches up with our values. Okay? So, values can change. And I'm not saying that we don't value our children, right? That's not my point. But when you look at this, I want you to list, there's some random values right here. List them in importance 1 to 18, okay? So you're going to rank them. And then, let's say with family, how much time and energy are you putting into this? Okay? So, what you're going to find is that, and you'll follow through with the instructions down here on the bottom, but what I want you to really think about, and bring this to your behaviorist if you want to, is what is it that I value? What's important to me? What you value, right? And if those things contradict what you need to do to follow your plan, we got to come up with a different plan. How can we make your plan fit more into your values, or how can we maybe rethink the things that you value right now to allow you to better follow through with your plan? Are y'all following me? No, I can't see you to get a thumbs up, but yes. Okay. So the file that is on, that you have your handout, you said sort of. Yeah, it's a lot. So basically what I'm saying is there are times where what is a priority for us may not be going to the gym. So we've got to figure out and shift one area to make sure that what is a priority for us aligns with our goals. And maybe we need to readjust our goals. Okay? This is so individual that I really want you guys to follow up with your behaviorist about this. The handout, go ahead and complete that handout. You can print it out, or what I'll do is Megan and I, one of us will make copies of this and put several copies in the nutrition shop here in Winston. And we'll, that way you can have that, and if you come early for an appointment or whatever, pick it up, fill it out, and chat with your behaviorist about it. That's all I have for today. Any last minute questions, thoughts, or comments, or anything before we hop off of our time together? You're welcome. You're welcome. It's okay. When you're doing a virtual group, you don't even terribly notice when somebody comes in late. Perfect. Good. I'm so glad. That's what I love about this. Oh, and just a reminder, we do not have Optifast group tomorrow. Holiday week. This was the group of the week. So if you need a refresher, this will be up on our recorded YouTube page. That comes out in your newsletter. Just click at the bottom and you can go to all the recorded sites. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Make sure you fill out the questionnaire at the end. That lets us know a couple things, what you think about the specific topic, what you think about virtual opportunity in general, and also allows us to give you credit for attending group, and you'll get a Perka point. I hope y'all had a wonderful Labor Day and a good rest of your week. Bye.